This is the latest edition of Front Up, and I'm Whitey Willauer, and I've got a great guest today, Jamie Feeley. Jamie, tell me about yourself. What do you do here on the island?
Well, I am one of two owners of Cottage and Castle, a local construction company.
Mm-hmm.
That's it as far as my professional world. I am married, live on Evergreen with a great wife and a couple little girls.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And you're involved in the Sconset Beach nourishment world?
Well, I'm a supporter first and foremost. I was hired recently, or Cottage and Castle was, as a consultant regarding the construction component, so the logistical construction part of their application with the Concom.
I see. So did you handle the presentation to the Concom?
I did not. There was a group. There's an environmental gentleman. There's a engineer, coastal engineer, and then there was the attorney, Barry Fogel, who were kind of the three lead presenters. But I was there in a supporting role, and I did speak at times.
So were you hired to do the construction?
No. Nope, I was hired to, actually I worked a lot with coastal contracting companies, and that helped me vet some of these various scenarios and complexities. So it was really figuring out, okay, how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost to remove a system if that, we had to establish an escrow to deal with much of the logistical components, such as the truck traffic and how we're going to get the stones down onto the beach and that sort of a thing.
So the idea was you're going to bring stones down, where are you going to bring them from? Or are you going to drop them over the...
The idea is that they would come over the top via crane.
Okay.
Yep.
And then how much of the beach were they going to cover?
So it would be the toe of the bluff as opposed to the beach.
Okay.
And there's two different sections that were proposed. We refer to them as the northern and the southern sectors. And I believe one was 350 feet, the other was 330 lineal feet. So it's a little under 700.
700 feet.
That's right.
And what kind of pushback were you getting as far as that was concerned?
From whom?
From the
Conservation Commission?
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't, it was much more of a question and answer process. It went on for 6 months. I think, right around there.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of questions. They had their technical consultant, and I believe Land Council had their technical consultant, and we had ours, of course. And so, there was a lot of focus on some of the specifics, the sand template size and things like that. And Josh Posner, who's been a great quarterback for this whole effort, has, his attitude was no question goes unanswered. So, the guys did a great job doing that, as far as I'm concerned. So, but
now, what kind of control do you think that actually would have had? In other words, was it something? Were there other things that are better to control the erosion, or in other words, why not harden the whole beach?
Well, as you probably know, there's the whole idea of adding sediment, and then you're contributing to the literal system. So you're essentially imitating nature as opposed to putting a seawall, in which case you're not contributing, you're not imitating nature, and you're going to lose the beach eventually. So that's the big difference. I don't know that a seawall is something that would even be available to us as an option through the government regulation, state and local.
But they've got riprap all over the Cape and Martha's Vineyard and everything else like that.
That's true.
Yeah, and
I suspect that's grandfathered. Much of it, anyway.
I mean, it was put in before the rules were changed.
I would suspect that's the case.
Yeah. Now, but when you do that, you don't generally get beach in front of it.
That's right.
Yeah, it can't hold the beach like Brant Point has got riprap there, and it doesn't contain. The beach doesn't stabilize there.
Yeah, it's a very, it's an important part of what they're proposing is making sure you get that sand template, the berm of sand, which would be maintained in front of the system. It's actually, what they're proposing is similar to what's there now, except that it would have an insurance policy by putting in the marine mattresses behind the sand template. So The idea is that you would never see them, except in the instance of maybe a 50 or 100-year storm where they came and took all of that sand away. And then there's an insurance policy that kind of keeps the bluff from eroding more, and then you have 5 days to get back out there, whatever the time allotment was with the Concom to go back and rebuild the sand template.
So when you say a sand template, that means just a layer of sand, right, over this?
That's right. It's more of a berm in front of it. They calculate something like 20 cubic yards per lineal foot. It changes, you know, depending.
That's an awful lot of sand.
It is a lot of sand.
Yeah.
Their proposal, I think, added up to about, between the two segments, 14,000 cubic yards a year. And that's the average that's
14,000, and that's, how much do you pay for a cubic yard of sand?
Oh, well.
$40 a cubic yard?
No, not quite that much. I mean, some people might pay that much,
Yeah.
but I don't think we'd have to pay that much.
And where would you get all the sand?
Well, there's two local pits. So there's Miles's pit
Yeah.
and there's Holgate's pit.
Yeah.
And they both have roughly 500,000 cubic yards, as I understand it, left. So it's about 1,000,000 cubic yards on island between the two pits now.
So you'd get a big, one of these 100-year storms, which we get about every year. Well, I can remember when we get the no-name storm.
Patriots Day, 2006, or oh no, that's good. You're going back further than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the no-name storm.
Yeah.
And then that inundated Brant Point, and then 1 year later we got another 100-year storm, which did the same thing. So it's not that. Yeah.
Well, that's the idea. So what's there now wouldn't be able to hold up to a 100-year
Right.
storm. So if you're going to invest that kind of, you know, money into the terracing system that's there.
Yeah. You're going to put this revetment or whatever it is behind there. How high up on the bank does that go?
So the marine mattresses, they go up in the highest section to elevation 26 above sea level. Of course, the beaches are, I think, around 9, so it's 21, or excuse me, how many feet? 17 feet of vertical.
Yeah.
Protection.
And then after that, then you've got the bank, and doesn't the bank take a while to stabilize to the mat? In other words, it's going to continue to erode until it hits its
angle of repose.
Yeah.
So the bank is going to find the angle of repose, which I think is somewhere around 40 degrees. But when the bottom part, the mattress system, is installed, that would be at roughly a 1.5 horizontal to 1 vertical slope. So that part would be stable, and then whatever happens on top would be separate from that.
Yeah. Now all of this is to save houses on Baxter Road. Is that the objective?
Well, it's to save homes and to, you know, save infrastructure. There's a roadway there with an awful lot of infrastructure in it, and so
Baxter Road itself.
Baxter Road, the water, the sewer, all that, and then there's the houses on the other side of the road as well. So I think there's 15 homes have been moved already.
Yeah.
35 left on the eastern side of the road, and then roughly 50 on the western side of the road. So there's, you know, it's a community.
Absolutely. Now tell me, have the property values decreased already? Have they lowered?
Oh, hugely. I think one just sold for $550,000, you know, a beautiful waterfront estate, so.
So yeah, but if it's waterfront and it's 550, then they're calculating it'll go over the bank, and that's why they dropped the price?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right, yeah. Values have been.
What would the price of the house been if it wasn't in an erosion position?
Oh, Whitey, I'm not a realtor, but it's, you know, it's got to be up there.
Yeah. So the whole objective is to preserve the properties along Baxter Road.
The community,
Yeah.
the properties, the roadway, the community. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends how you look at it. Is it a 5-year lens? Is it a 10-year lens, or a 30-year lens? And so, you know, what's going to happen over the much longer period here?
Now, what happens about the properties on either side? They're unprotected. Are they going to get scoured?
They're not. Well, what we've seen so far, that's not been the case. So 79 Baxter Road's a good example. They have terracing, and they've been, you know, doing a great job actively maintaining it. And you can see that the sand actually the neighbors are benefiting there. So that's the idea. There's returns at the ends of these mattress systems, and those returns would continue at a 45-degree angle. So you're not going to see scour. In fact, that's one of the failure criteria. If there were scour, then there's an escrow set aside for the removal of this with the town by the SBPF. And, that would be that.
And you're on town land.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's why you have to go before the Concom, because it's...
Well, you'd have to go in front of the Concom no matter what. That's why ultimately you'd have to get a license from the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Is because of the town land.
Yeah, for the town land, but otherwise it's Concom.
Otherwise it's Concom only.
Yeah. Now, why are people pushing back so much on this? In other words, it's not their house that they're pushing back on.
Well, maybe that's part of the answer. But, I think that the SBPF has had some things historically that haven't gone well, and that haven't necessarily earned the trust of all the people around town. And I think they've learned from that. And Josh is very focused on making sure that there's no impacts going forward. So that's part of it. The Beach Nourishment Project was probably not the right project at that time, and so they've adapted and they've come back with something that they think is more in tune with what the community might be willing to accept.
But I'm always amazed at the people that live on the other side of the island, why they are pushing back on the Sconset people.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I can't answer that. I think part of it is getting people educated and letting them understand what it is that we're trying to do now. The reasons now may be different than the reasons then.
Yes.
And I think actually maybe left over from reasons then.
Yeah.
So, if we can get people aware of what it is they're asking for now, maybe their attitudes will change. I know personally I've talked to a whole bunch of people where that's been the case. So.
How rapidly is the bank being undermined or moving back?
Well, right now it's somewhere between 3.5 and let's say 4.5 feet a year, and that's what some of the sand template calculations were based on.
That's
and as you know, some of these storms can take 10 feet at a time. So that's the average. So
average over how many years?
That's a good question. They've gone back to the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah, because it was stable then. So if you go back,
they're going so far as I think when the bluff has really started to erode. So,
right.
The rate has changed. So.
I know on the North Shore we're just over 1.25 feet per year, going back 60 years, but that isn't as high, let's say, energy as where you are. And you also have a slope. In other words, it gets deep very fast off of Sconset, so the sand would run downhill, so to speak.
Right, it goes out to the depth of closure and then kind of falls off.
Yeah.
But my thoughts about this are, you have this group that's willing to privately fund this thing. It's this great community out there in Sconset, and it's an interesting opportunity to see if it'll work, because one by one these houses are getting moved away or forced to move, and that's going to continue. And it'll be sad, in my opinion, it'll be sad to see that whole street and community be affected in that way. And I just think that we as a community should give them a chance, if it doesn't hurt anybody else, to try something that may work, and at their expense try to save that community, really.
When I was growing up, they said this island will disappear in 10,000 years, and somebody last night was saying 600. The way things are going, actually, yeah. So this is sort of a finger in the dike, so to speak.
That's right, and if you have a 50-year lens, then I think you would look at it a little bit differently than if you're looking at it in a 2, 3, 5-year situation. But certainly that's going to be a big issue, seeing that road disappear.
Yeah, that is going to be a problem because of the infrastructure.
For the town, and the taxpayers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's see if we can find something that works that doesn't harm anybody. That's my approach.
Well, fine. Well, thank you very much, Jamie. Appreciate it. And I notice our time has run out, so
Thanks for having me,
thank you.
Whitey.
Right.
Appreciate
you
it.
did a great job.
Okay.
Right.